good evening to our beautiful people all over the world. A lot of times we like to cover a greeting, a bantu, because we want to make sure that wherever you may receive this beautiful time we share together, no matter what part of the planet, morning, noon, or night, we just always want to extend a welcome, whatever language that this may be in or rebroadcast in. We always want to honor our audience and making sure that they are greeted in a warm and special way. Again, I'm Brother Hubert Naim Roberts. I'm the chairman of the Black Lives Matter Grassroots Flint, Michigan. I'm also uh, an activist in the community that deal with civic responsibility as far as working to heal the brokenness in our community when you're dealing with corrupt, just terribly corrupt leadership from the state, from the federal, state, local, and county. Everyone is doubling down on engaging in some of the most filthy language that we use towards one another. It's okay. A lot of times when people talk about conservative and Democrat, or when you are liberal or a conservative or a Green Party or libertarian or what have you, a lot of those phrases and the language that people use is a mask because at the bottom or at the core of all of this power grabbing and power shifting around the world and locally is based on bigotry. It's based on who is considered human and worthy of resources and who is not. It's based on who has dignity and who does not. It's based on who have a right for a legacy or building wealth or who's not. I mean, it's pretty much simpler in the term. But you want to say how you can simplify politics or theology or any aspect of our human existence, if you want to break it down in its simplest forms and get all of the mess out, it is based on who have and who does not have. Because to have, there has to be some form or some element that doesn't have. When you think about the raping and the pillage of the continent that the Europeans call Africa, which is not its original name, the intentional rape, maiming, and butchering, cutting off arms, legs, breasts, phalluses, heads, noses. Every despicable thing that you can do to the human body is done to us as a people. And many times that's sport. Many times the type of, when you think about Leopold, King Leopold, what he did with the Mau Mau, did to the Mau Mau's in Congo, Cecil Rhodes. When you think about how they intentionally in 1884 divided up a continent with billions of people already on it. And then Herman something invented the Gatling gun. And if it was not for the invention of the Gatling gun that took place, the story would have been told differently when the lion has the gun or when the rabbit has the gun. The story is told differently. And speaking of stories, I've always believed in understanding history. It's kind of cold in this building here. And understanding history. So much of history has always been rewrote or rewritten to glorify even the savages that murdered and destroyed, like this country did with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. You can't make it up. Pretty much the war was over with. But they had this toy that they wanted to see how it would work. The war, Japan had basically, after Pearl Harbor, Japan had basically, surrendered. But they had this toy. They had this nuclear fission. They had this element called an atomic bomb. And these wicked individuals in this country chose to drop it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to see what would happen. And then it's amazing how, with the fall of the current administration over there in that evil South Africa, and they got the nerve to want to say that they have a right to some land that they took from people that have been there thousands of years, the Afrikaners. They want to say they have a right to a land. These are Afrikaners. They came down there, like you just said, like I said earlier, you have the Berlin Conference, right? When they divided up the continent, the European murderers divided up a continent of people that have been there for thousands of years. These people invented and created most everything known to man. They understood the principles of nuclear fusion, but chose to invent language, art, astrology, and all these other things that we take for granted today. They had a construct, mathematically, of understanding the power or the element that goes into nuclear fusion. But they chose to engage in life affirming as opposed to destroying life. Because you have a country called this country. This country spends an enormous amount, trillions of dollars on war. And to show you how evil this country is, they changed the name to the Department of War. It used to be the Department of Defense. And much of what is taking place around in our country is centered around the lack of understanding and the lack of a pure knowledge of history. When you don't have a grasp of your history, and I'm just talking about your everyday history. I'm not talking about being a PhD or master's degree level, anything like that. I'm just talking about basic civic history, understanding how your municipality runs, having a firm understanding of how or the power of your council, your school board, the mayor's office, those people that's under the mayor's office, they're supposed to provide a service to a city, because none of that took place in Flint, Michigan. And everybody still got paid. They poisoned the water. That Snyder guy, who is a white supremacist, he got off unscathed, along with everybody in his administration, black, brown, and purple. All of them was in cahoots to poison a community, because they would not have done it in Grand Lake, Davidson, Flushing, Fenton, Otisville, especially Bloomfield Hill, those kind of places, or Troy, Michigan. If you look up Troy, Michigan, and it's rated almost one of the best schools, elementary, K through 12 schools in the country, because of resources. So I wanted to talk, and I always want, whenever I do podcasts, and it's a hard conversation, is I want to center it around how do we engage in changing our predicament that we're in. First of all, we have unacceptable leadership in this community, and this community has been so beat down, meaning we vote collectively almost at 11 and 12% of a city that's got about 60 to 80,000 people. And most of the city, not the county's all white basically, but the city is mostly black. Poor blacks and poor whites and poor Mexicans, basically. And most of the administration in this city is ran by white people. Most of all of the jobs, when you you can be on the corner at 5:05, and you can see all of these white people leaving the city that they don't have to pay taxes in and take it out to Otisville, Owasso, Grand Blanc, Davidson. They take their money and their resources out to their community. They do not invest in Flint, Michigan. They make sure their community, and black people better not go out in their community. And those that live out in those communities, I need not have to say anything about the choice. I understand wanting to live decent, but there's nothing wrong living in a city and making the city decent. With proper leadership, anywhere that you are can be decent, can be filled with the resources needed for everyone in that community to survive and thrive. Collectively, when you think about the waste that this country engages in on a daily basis, the kind of money that is thrown away in this country, it is unacceptable what we're doing constantly towards one another in our community. And so a lot of times when you engage in a conversation around those principles, then people want to call you a racist, and you can't. Because I understand the definition of real racism or to be a racist. Because when they want to say reverse and DEI and all this stuff attacking diversity, I ask white people, if you are against diversity, isn't the planet diverse? There's nothing alike on this planet. There's not trees that are alike, no plants that are alike, no animals that are alike. If we didn't have diversity on this planet would be a dead planet. A planet or a system cannot live without diversity. An ecosystem cannot thrive healthy without being diverse. So again, when we engage in all these hyperbolic cliques and this madness that we're dealing with at the federal level, you know, you have to ask yourself, you know, what is the end game? And so I really want to share with our community some information that you guys are not aware of. So when we talk about history and understanding real history, I want to go back to 1591 AD. AD means after the death, or how you want it, after the death of Jesus, or that demarcation, whatever that means. I'm not gonna lie to you on that level. Again, when you have the ability to lie, just like this here. I mean, when you think about King Cole, 1591, this brother here and 15,000 of his warriors went through the Sahara Desert, over 3,000 died, then got on the coast. You hear me? Got on the coast, the west coast of Africa, right? Did this, Senegal, and regrouped, and then went across the ocean to Spain and invaded Spain for 2 years. He had 15,000 men. He ran through 3 cities in Spain. Those Europeans was upset, sent 40,000 at him. He crushed them. Sent 40,000 at 15,000 men, black men, crushed them. Y'all don't hear that in history. That's King Kofi. Check him out, 1591. Y'all need to check this brother out. Y'all, we always talk about Africa being colonized and being butchered. This king chose to holler. He said, y'all invading our land, we gonna holler at y'all. Y'all ain't heard that in history. None of y'all have heard that in history. This what happened. And they working to erase it. So I'm sharing it with our community. I want you guys, and I challenge you guys to look it up. Don't just take my word for it. I need you to have this in a conversation when you're dealing with white supremacists. I need this to be in a conversation when you're dealing with anybody on any kind of level talking about the ebb and flow of humanity. Who is up and who is not. Who is right and who is wrong. Because all of it's wrong when you engage in killing any human life. Totally unacceptable. Because if you want to talk theology or how you want to define your understanding about the Creator, we do not supposed to be engaging in no type of warring, killing one another over resources, because that's all it is. We kill over resources. We kill over diamonds and gold and Gucci bags and all that garbage. But King Kofi, I'm telling you guys, went through the Sahara Desert, lost 3,000, got on the coast of Shanghai, regrouped, sailed over the Mediterranean Sea, went up into Spain, hollered at Fli-City, crushed them. The Europeans were so upset about it, they sent 40,000 at him. His 15 crushed 40. His 15 crushed 40. And then what happened? The Europeans grouped up and sent more at him. And instead of him going back to Africa, he chose to fight himself. His 500 men, they fought to the death. They refused to go back to Africa to be enslaved. And they said, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's what we want to be teaching our young children. That's what we need to be teaching people my age and younger. I'm talking about those 40, 50, and 60, because they don't even have a clue. That's why we engage in hate one another, because we don't have a real solid understanding that we come from civilization. Black people didn't start in enslavement. Our creation didn't start in being enslaved. That's not our story. That's a chapter in the book as we continue to write our story, but that's not our beginning. And I think it's important to start at the beginning. There is an origin. There is a fact. There is a baseline. There is facts and truth, and then there is alternative information, or there is lies. Because even if you want to say there is an alternative to the truth, how do you have an alternative to the truth? So I give you a fact, but you're going to give me a different fact based on the fact that I gave you. So the fact or the purity of the fact is not good enough. And again, our witnessing in time, we're witnessing in time the dismantling of everything that we understand to a country that was taken from people that were already here, and then they were lied about some kind of founding father, which is a lie. How you going to find something lost? Number one. Number two, how you going to be engaging in rape and genocide and just